I told the alien general she had a nice butt. She blushed, then punched me into orbit. No one told her humans came extra large. Commander Jack Halden wasn't looking to cause a scene. He just wanted to land, deliver his cargo of medical nanogel, and get out of there without upsetting any locals or triggering another incident report. Veltari Prime was a quiet assignment. Peaceful, professional. So naturally, the first thing Jack did when he stepped off his transport shuttle was gawk, wide-eyed and slack-jawed, at the customs officer standing in front of him. She was tall. Real tall. Silver skin that shimmered in the sun like polished chrome, 4 bright, intelligent eyes scanning him from head to toe, and legs that looked like they were made to go on forever. Jack forgot how to breathe for a second, then remembered just in time to flash her a cocky grin. "You are not what I expected," she said, her voice low and melodic, with an accent that sounded like music wrapped in velvet. "I get that a lot," Jack said. "Must be the human proportions." Her upper eyes stayed on his face. The lower pair dropped. She paused, blinked, tilted her head. Then her gaze locked on the biometric scan slowly scrolling up his body. Projected on a panel behind him, it reached his waist, then dipped lower. Her silver skin flushed with color. A soft lilac glow spread across her cheeks and down her slender neck. One of her right eyelids twitched sharply. Later, Jack would learn that was a Veltari reaction, similar to a human doing. A double take. Right now he just filed that under interesting. "Are all human males like this?" she asked, voice suddenly breathier. Eyes still focused on the scan that had just flagged an anomaly in size parameters. Jack shrugged casually, trying not to look too pleased with himself. "Not all, no. But I like to think I represent Earth admirably." Her gaze finally snapped back up to his face. She blinked fast, then cleared her throat, twice. "Your clearance is approved," she said, handing over the documents. Her fingers trembled. Jack took the papers with a grin. "Pleasure meeting you, officer." "Jara," she said, a little too quickly. "Talon Jara." "Well, Talon Jara," Jack said, leaning just a little closer. "If you ever want to compare planetary biology notes, I'm around for the next 3 cycles." She didn't answer, just stared at him with that same flushed lilac glow lighting up her skin like a neon sign for curiosity and something else. Something warmer, hungrier. He turned and walked away, feeling her eyes burning into his back. Yep, he was off to a good start. Too good, maybe. Behind him, Jara stared at the scanner screen again, even though it had already cleared and reset. Her bottom left eye twitched. Her fingers tapped her comms device, but she didn't transmit anything. This wasn't in the manual. She had trained for years in first contact protocol, emergency diplomatic procedure, threat assessment, and 10 types of zero-gravity close quarters combat. But she'd never been warned about this. She'd never been warned that human males could be visually intimidating, and not because of weapons or muscle mass, because of that. She pulled up his profile again. Commander Jack Halden, Earthborn, former military cargo pilot. Unarmed, but the scanner didn't lie. She could still see the biometric size data flashing red. A warning. Or maybe an invitation. Jara took a steadying breath. She was a disciplined officer of the Veltari Border Corps. She had duties. She had rules. She also had a heat cycle scheduled, in 5 days, which until now she'd planned to suppress with the usual hormonal blockers. Now she wasn't so sure. Her gaze drifted toward the hangar where the human pilot had disappeared. She told herself it was purely professional interest, curiosity about the anomalies. Nothing more. And yet, her hand hovered over the biometric file longer than necessary. Her other hand still tingled from when he'd brushed it while taking the papers. No. She shook her head. Ridiculous. This was just an unusual physiological observation, except her skin was still glowing lilac and the heat in her cheeks wasn't fading. With a quiet sigh, she tapped her comms. "Control," she said. "I'm requesting reassignment detail for human pilot Commander Halden's security review and planetary escort." The voice on the other end sounded surprised. "That's not required, Officer Jara. He's a Class 3 non-critical." "Yes," she said quickly. "I just want to ensure compliance." There was a pause, then a beep of approval. Jara allowed herself the tiniest smile. For security purposes, of course. After all, she was just doing her job, and maybe, just maybe, getting a closer look at those human proportions. For science, Jara told herself it was just protocol, standard precaution, routine fieldwork. She repeated it again and again as she stood outside Docking Bay 7, watching Commander Jack Halden lean under the open belly of his shuttle, tightening a few bolts like he was trying to seduce the ship itself. He wore the kind of sleeveless undershirt humans favored, tight, slightly oily, and clinging in all the right places. His arms looked like they could wrestle a Grocock's beast, and his smile, well, that could start wars if he pointed it the wrong way. When he spotted her, he stood up and wiped his hands on a rag that had clearly retired from service years ago. "Jara," he said, flashing that same grin. "Back for another scan? I've got a new setting you might want to review. Fully extended for maximum diplomacy." She blinked, trying not to look directly at his hips. Again, "I'm here to escort you to medical diagnostics," she said, standing tall and professional despite her glowing skin. "Your scan showed irregular metrics. We need to rule out contamination or enhancement." Jack raised an eyebrow. "You think I'm enhanced? That's either a compliment or a challenge." "Protocol," she repeated, already regretting this decision. "Follow me." They walked in silence through the metal corridors of the outpost. Jack kept sneaking glances at her, amused. Jara kept facing forward, trying to ignore the slight brush of his shoulder against hers. He smelled like starship fuel and cinnamon, some kind of human deodorant. Whatever it was, it made her fingers twitch. Inside the diagnostics room, the lights dimmed automatically. The scanner hummed to life, casting a soft blue glow over the chamber. Jack stepped up to the platform without hesitation. "Clothes on, or off?" Jara looked up from her tablet too quickly. "What?" He grinned. "For the scan." "Oh, on. Mostly. Just lower garments." Jack began unfastening his pants. Slowly, too slowly, Jara kept her eyes on the wall. "This feels strangely intimate for something labeled medical," he said, stepping out of his clothes with absolutely no shame. "I mean, not that I'm complaining. You're unusually comfortable with this process." "I was in the Earth Navy for 10 years, he said. "You get over modesty fast when you've been showering with 15 guys in 0G. He stood there, tall and naked from the waist down, hands on his hips like a damn statue. Jara tried not to look. She failed. And when her gaze did land on the subject in question, her breath caught. The scanner beeped, confirming the anomaly again. Too large for baseline Veltari expectations. Heat signatures consistent with arousal. Hers and his. Jara swallowed. "I'll begin the compatibility test now." Jack tilted his head. "Wait, what exactly does that mean? Because I'm starting to think Veltari health checks are just better excuses for foreplay." She didn't answer, instead pulling a thin glove from the tray and slipping it on. The touch-sensitive polymer crackled slightly as it adjusted to her skin. She reached out, slow, clinical. Her hand brushed him lightly. Just a graze. Jack inhaled sharply, and Jara's skin flared a deep pink. Embarrassment, surprise, and something far more primal. "You okay?" Jack asked, voice lower now. Jara stepped back, stunned. "Your biological field, it's resonating with mine. That's not supposed to happen." Jack raised both eyebrows. "Resonating? Is that a polite way of saying you're into me?" She cleared her throat. "It's a biofeedback loop. Veltari only react this way when near compatible genetic material." He smirked. "So, I'm Veltari certified now?" Jara should have shut the test down right there. But instead, she stepped closer. For science, she told herself. For data. For the future of diplomatic biology. "Touch again," she said, this time placing her hand on his hip. The scanner beeped louder. Then she felt it. Heat, vibration, desire. Her breathing quickened. Jack's eyes locked onto hers, playful but focused. "You know," he said softly, "if I didn't know better, I'd say this was the start of something." Mutual. Jara's fourth eye twitched. That was it. She was doomed and she liked it. "Test complete," she said quickly, yanking her hand back. Jack chuckled. "That was the most fun I've ever had getting scanned." Jara didn't respond. She was too busy trying to cool her flushed skin and ignore the wild fluttering in her chest. But one thought wouldn't leave her mind. If this was what just a touch could do, what would full contact feel like? The results were conclusive. Humans were dangerous, and she was already thinking about testing him again. Jara tried to stay focused after the compatibility test. She really did. She filed the data. She submitted the report. She even forced herself to sit through a 12-minute ethics briefing on cross-species interaction protocols. But the whole time, all she could think about was Jack Halden's crooked smile and the exact temperature of his skin when she touched him. She'd been trained to resist temptation, to think like a soldier, not a female. But Jara had a problem. Big, warm, frustrating, smooth voice problem. Jack Halden. And he was now assigned to stay on Veltari Prime for 4 more cycles because his cargo manifest got misplaced. Jara suspected sabotage, probably her own subconscious. When she arrived at the pilot quarters to check on him, she told herself it was official business. Just a follow-up. Jack opened the door shirtless again. "Of course, Jara," he said, surprised but pleased. "You look tense. Need another scan?" She scowled. "This is not a flirtation call. You missed your check-in with orbital control." "Did I?" Jack leaned against the doorframe. "Must have gotten distracted. Want to come in and help me? I refocus?" Jara's skin flashed warning pink. "I am not here to engage in mating behavior. I never said you were. Though now that you said it." He stepped aside, motioning her in. She hesitated, then entered. His quarters were small but clean, functional. A few strange earth items on the shelf, something called a lava lamp, a small black and white photo of a woman with a kind smile, probably his mother, and a pack of cards with odd symbols. Jack noticed her looking. "Yeah, humans like to bring a piece of home. Makes the galaxy feel smaller." Jara touched the photo gently. "She's important?" "Yeah. She raised me. Taught me how to cook and not crash ships. And taught you how to say inappropriate things to female officers?" Jack laughed. "That part's all me." There was a pause, tension, warm and stretching between them like gravity. "I've been thinking," Jack said, voice softer now, "about that scan, and what it meant." "It meant nothing," Jara said too quickly. Jack stepped closer. "Really? Because I've had scans before. Never had a beautiful alien light up like a fireworks display after touching me." Jara's throat tightened. "It's biological. You triggered a response." "So did you." She opened her mouth to protest, but his hand gently reached out and cupped her elbow. Not forceful, just enough contact. Her skin flushed again. Pale pink, then a deeper lavender. Jack watched it happen, fascinated. "Does it always do that?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Only when I'm aware of someone, in a certain way." His thumb brushed over her forearm. "I like being someone you're aware of," he said. Her hand caught his wrist before she could think. "Stop, we can't." "Why?" Jack asked. "Because Veltari bonding is permanent, not a game. Once we choose, it stays. For life." Jack blinked. "Wait, bonding? You think this is heading that way?" Jara didn't answer. She looked away, ashamed and flustered. But her fingers didn't release his wrist. He stepped closer. "I'm not scared, Jara. I'm not sure what this is yet. But I like it. I like you." "You don't understand what you're saying," she said. If this continues, it changes everything." Jack nodded. "Then maybe everything needs changing." She looked at him, all 4 eyes, searching. And then, she kissed him. It wasn't soft. It wasn't careful. It was hungry. Honest. A collision of heat and confusion and need. Jack responded immediately, pulling her closer, kissing back with the kind of raw fire only a man raised on danger and bad decisions could bring. Her skin lit up like starlight. When they finally broke apart, breathless, her voice was hoarse. "You are trouble. And you," Jack grinned, "are completely worth it." That night, they didn't talk about rules or politics or biology. They just talked, touched, held each other. And somewhere between the fourth kiss and the second round of scientific exploration, Jara whispered, something she never thought she'd say to a human, "I don't want this to stop." Jack's answer? Then don't. But outside their warm cocoon of sweat and starlight, trouble was building. Veltari High Command had noticed her neural bond levels rising, and a certain council officer had just pulled her scan logs. Something had begun, and someone wanted it ended. Jara had always lived by the rules, orders, protocol, tradition. Every step of her career had been by the book, sharp, disciplined, predictable, and now she woke up tangled in human limbs, her silver skin still glowing a soft purple, and her stomach doing strange flips every time Jack Halden so much as breathed near her. "Morning. 4 eyes." Jack mumbled, one arm draped over her bare side. "You always twitch like that in your sleep, or is that a Veltari thing?" "Muscle reaction," she said automatically, though it wasn't quite true. Veltari didn't twitch. They didn't snuggle either, and they definitely didn't fall asleep wrapped around species known for fast-talking, fast-flying, and very slow pulling out. Jara sat up abruptly, her hand pressed to her lower abdomen. Something felt different. A pulse. A warmth. A pull. She told herself it was nerves. But Veltari warriors weren't supposed to get nervous after mating. Unless... She slipped out of the bed and made a quick scan of herself with the compact diagnostic reader from her utility. Belt. The result blinked on screen. Unstable cellular fusion detected. Hybrid genome forming. Gestational probability, 97.2%. Jara dropped the scanner. No. No, 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 no. Impossible, she whispered, heart racing. It's biologically incompatible. It's... Behind her, Jack groaned and rolled over. "You okay?" She turned slowly. "I'm pregnant." He blinked at her, then blinked again. "Wow. Okay. That was fast. Usually I get ghosted at least once before the kid announcement." Jara didn't smile. Jack sat up, his expression shifting. "Wait, seriously?" She nodded stiffly. "Your seed was viable. Hyper-viable, apparently. My body shouldn't have accepted it. No Veltari pairing with another species has ever resulted in successful fertilization." Jack rubbed his face. "And now we're making intergalactic history. Huh. Kinda proud of that. Jack." Her voice was sharp. "Do you understand what this means? I will be removed from the warrior caste. Marked, possibly exiled. You think they'll exile you for falling in love?" Her eyes flashed. "It's not love. It's biology." Jack leaned back on his elbows, still half naked and far too calm for someone who just got the most intense baby news in the galaxy. "I know what biology feels like," he said gently. "Last night wasn't just that, not for me." Jara opened her mouth, closed it again. She didn't know what to say. Everything felt too much. Her body, her heart, the child inside her, the man in front of her. Then her calm crackled to life. "Lieutenant, Jara, report to Central Command immediately. Priority Delta, repeat, immediate appearance required." Her breath caught. They knew. She scrambled to pull on her uniform. Jack grabbed his pants too, already sliding into his boots. "I'm coming with you." "No, if they see you, it'll make things worse. If they find out I touched you and ran, that won't help either." Jara paused, her hands on her breastplate. He stepped closer, took her hands in his. "We're in this together, okay? She stared at him, then nodded once. When they walked into Central Command together, every head turned. The Veltari commandant stood waiting, surrounded by 2 science officers and a tall, dark-robed elder, an observer. "Lieutenant Jara," the commandant said coldly, "you are charged with unauthorized contact, genetic intermingling, and concealment of a Class Z bio-event." Jara stood tall. "It wasn't unauthorized. I chose it. I chose him." The observer tilted his head. "You are bonded?" "We are," Jack said, stepping forward. "And if you think I'm walking away from her or our child, you'll need a warship to stop me." The science officer handed over the scan. "It's real. The fetus is stable. The hybrid genome is merging." The room went quiet. Then the observer, of all people, spoke. "In our ancient records, there was once a prophecy of a new lineage, one that would unify what was once divided." Jack raised an eyebrow. "I'm guessing they didn't mean a smart-mouthed human and a 4-eyed warrior with anger issues?" The observer smiled. "Just a little." "Perhaps they did, but the commandant wasn't convinced. You will be removed from duty, Jara, effective immediately. Your genetics will be monitored. Your relationship, supervised." "Like hell it will," Jack snapped. Jara squeezed his hand. "Let me handle this." She stepped forward, shoulders square. "You can strip my rank but not my choices. I didn't break. I evolved. Isn't that what warriors are trained to do?" The room was silent again. Then the observer turned to the commandant. "We must not fear the future. The bond has happened. The child is coming. The question is, what do we do now?" Jara held her breath. Jack reached over and laced his fingers with hers. And this time, when her skin glowed lavender and pink and violet all at once, she didn't try to stop it, because for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of who she was becoming. The decision came down fast, too fast. Within hours of the hearing, Jara was issued a notice of suspension. Her access to the command network was revoked. Her quarters were sealed. Her name scrubbed from the warrior roster. Jack called it politics. Jara called it betrayal. Both were right. They want to lock you in a medical lab and treat the baby like it's a weapon. Jack snapped as they stood near the eastern hangars, where emergency shuttles were kept in case of orbital failure or evacuation. "I don't care what they want," Jara said, eyes burning violet. "They're not taking my child." Jack loaded the last crate of supplies into the stealth courier shuttle. It was smaller than his usual ride. Fast, unregistered, and very illegal. "Then, we run," he said simply, "like 2 very good-looking fugitives with great genetics." Jara glanced at him. "You're far too calm about this. I'm a human man with a glowing, half-naked alien warrior carrying my baby," he said with a grin. "There is literally no part of this situation I'm not proud of." She rolled her eyes, but her lips curved, just a little. The launch was messy. 1 ground unit spotted them mid-lift. Jack gunned the thrusters and Jara returned fire with a plasma burst that melted the outpost gate into glowing slag. The ship shot through the clouds like a stolen comet. As the stars stretched out before them, Jack finally relaxed into the pilot chair, panting. "Well," he said, "I think that qualifies as our first family vacation." Jara looked at the streaking stars, her hand resting gently on her stomach. "This isn't a vacation, Jack. It's exile." He glanced over. "Nah, exile is what happens when you're alone. We're not." They flew for hours, far beyond Veltari space, past mapped jump lanes, past the eyes of the Council. Jack set course for a rogue planet known only in smuggler circles as Keldra's Rock, a place where laws were optional and no one asked what species you were sleeping with. Inside the cramped living module of the shuttle, Jack unrolled 2 thermal blankets and made a bed that technically wasn't designed for 2, but they made it work. Jara sat down with a sigh, massaging the base of her back. He noticed. "Of course. Lower spine ache?" he asked gently, moving behind her. She nodded. "My core temperature is off and my lower muscles keep contracting." Jack didn't say a word. He just pulled off his shirt, sat behind her, and placed both hands gently on her back. The moment his skin touched hers, her entire body lit with bioluminescent light. A soft wave of blue and purple shimmered down her spine. "Sensitive?" he whispered. "More than usual. Since the bonding." His hands moved in slow, gentle circles, feeling her muscles shift beneath his touch. "You're amazing. You know that?" he murmured. Jara closed her eyes. "I was trained to be a soldier, a protector, not a mate, not a mother." Jack paused, then leaned close, his lips brushing the top of her shoulder. "You were made for more than duty, Jara. Anyone who can break me in half and still make me want to hold her all night, that's not a weakness. That's everything." Her breath caught. Her fingers reached back and found his, and just like that, the silence between them grew deeper, softer. Later that night, they lay curled together under one blanket, her belly warm against his side, her breathing calm. Jack couldn't sleep. He kept watching her, memorizing every rise and fall of her chest. "Jack," she whispered, not opening her eyes. "You're staring again. You're glowing again. You do that to me." "I hope I always do," he said, brushing a hand over her side. She didn't answer, but her fingers laced with his under the blanket. In that tiny ship, floating in nowhere, with a child neither species thought possible growing, quietly between them they had found something strange, something dangerous, and maybe something worth everything. But back on Veltari Prime, Counselor Malik had already placed a bounty on them. The reward? Alive, if possible. Dead, if more convenient. Because the last thing the Veltari High Council wanted was proof that humans were more than just loud, stubborn, oversized mammals. They were changing everything, and Jara and Jack, they were about to become legend. The quiet didn't last. Keldra's rock wasn't built for peace. It was a crusty little rogue planet orbiting a half-dead star, full of smugglers, mercenaries, exiles, and the kind of traders who sold weapons with one hand and loved potions with the other. Jack fit in fine. Jara? Not so much. She was too tall, too noble, too obviously glowing with something the locals recognized, Veltari pregnancy shimmer, and that was all it took for someone to send out a signal. Less than 48 hours later, the first bounty hunter found them. Jack spotted him first, lurking near the food stalls, all cloaked in black with a scanner that looked suspiciously tuned to hybrid DNA. Jack grabbed Jara's hand and didn't let go. "Time to go." They ducked into an alley as a plasma bolt scorched the wall where they'd just been standing. Jara whirled, grabbed Jack's blaster, and returned fire in one fluid motion. The hunter dodged, fast, but not fast enough to miss. The second shot that took out his knee. He screamed. Jack winced. "I should have warned you, pregnancy hasn't softened her." Jara didn't smile. "I was going easy on him." They ran. Back at the ship, Jack sealed the hatch while Jara scanned the hunter's comms. Her skin flickered blue with tension. "It's worse than we thought," she said. "There's a contract out for both of us. Multiple systems. Half the bounty if I'm captured alive. Double if I'm brought back before the child is born." Jack stared at her. "They don't just want you. They want to study the baby." Jara nodded, expression cold. "To weaponize it, breed more. Use what we created for war." Jack leaned against the wall, running a hand through his hair. "And here I thought your family just wouldn't like me." She moved to him, her fingers gentle on his face. "This isn't just about us anymore." Jack looked down at her. "No, it's not. They needed help, and fast." That's when Jack had an idea. A reckless one. "We go to Earth." Jara blinked. "What?" He stepped closer. "The Interstellar. Council doesn't scare me, but I know someone who might scare them. Admiral Reeve." She stiffened. "You said he retired." "He did. After saving 5 colonies and punching a senator in the jaw. He's still got connections, and he's my godfather." Jara's eyes narrowed. This man sounds exactly like you. Which is why he'll help us. Jara exhaled. Fine. But if he pulls a weapon on me, he won't. He likes strong women. Married one. The journey to Earth took 3 jumps and a nervous refueling stop on a moon that smelled like rotting cheese. Through it all, Jara's skin glowed brighter by the day. Is that a Veltari pregnancy glow? Jack asked. Or are you just excited to see me all the time? Both, she said dryly, though her lips curved. By the time they reached Earth orbit, Jara had officially entered her 3rd gestational phase, which, according to her biology, meant hypersensitivity to sound, touch, and, unfortunately, Jack's sarcasm. They landed in the mountains of Old Canada, where Reeve had retired to a lakeside fortress disguised as a cabin. The old admiral opened, the door with a mug in hand and a plasma rifle slung casually across his back. Jack, he said, squinting, you brought a glowing woman into my retirement. I hope this means there's trouble. There's always trouble, Jack grinned. Meet Jara, the love of my life, the mother of my child, and possibly the key to galactic peace or war, depending on who you ask. Reeve took a long sip of his drink. Finally, he said, something interesting. Jara raised an eyebrow. This is the man you trust? Jack smiled. More than anyone. And as Reeve ushered them inside, Jack felt it for the first time since they'd fled. Safety. Temporary, maybe. Fragile, but real. That night, while Jara slept curled beside him, one hand on her growing belly, Jack stayed awake, watching the moonlight shift across her skin. She was the strongest person he'd ever met. And somehow, she'd chosen him, not for his charm, not for his jokes, not even for his famously oversized human anatomy, but because deep down, they were the same. 2 fighters, 2 rebels, 2 hearts refusing to give up on each other, even when the stars were against them and come hell, war, or bounty hunters. Jack Halden wasn't giving her or their child up for anything. The cabin didn't stay quiet for long. Reeve was good, paranoid, well-armed, and plugged into more military channels than the Earth Senate officially approved. But even he couldn't hide the fact that half the outer rim was buzzing with one name, Jara. Actually 2 names now. Because after Reeve leaked a classified report suggesting Commander Jack Halden's DNA had produced a viable Veltari hybrid, the EU. Bounty shifted. No longer was it just a capture mission. Now it was political. Some species wanted the baby protected. Others wanted it destroyed. A few, disturbingly, wanted more made. And in the middle of it all, Jack and Jara sat on a creaky old Earth couch, watching a fuzzy newsfeed announce, the first confirmed hybrid pregnancy between Veltari and human. The implications? Genetic evolution, military controversy, and a surprising amount of public interest in human male fertility. Jack turned to Jara. I told you not to let them take that scan of me naked. She arched an eyebrow. You weren't complaining at the time. He grinned, but the moment didn't last. The satellite warning lit up in Reeve's command room. Unauthorized dropship inbound. 2 minutes to atmospheric entry. No transponder. Jara was already moving. Jack grabbed his jacket and checked his blaster. You really want to fight? Reeve said, handing him a fresh power cell. On the day your daughter is due? Jack looked over his shoulder at Jara. She was calm, composed, belly full, and hand on her plasma rifle like she wasn't 2 hours from labor. I'd fight the galaxy, Jack said. She's worth it. The first shot hit the ridgeline a minute later. An impact drone, not a bomb, meant to stun, not kill. The enemy didn't want corpses, they wanted specimens, Reeve cursed. They're trying to take her alive. Jara stepped beside Jack, her body crackling with blue defensive energy. They'll try, she said. They won't succeed. They fought back to back, Jara firing from the high ground, Jack keeping the flanks clear, Reeve lobbing old, Earth-made grenades with military glee. The bounty hunters were fast, but nothing prepared them for a Veltari warrior 7 months pregnant and mad as hell. Then it happened. A low cry, not from the battlefield. Jara staggered. Jack was at her, sighed instantly, What is it? My body? It's time. You're going into labor now? Jara gave him a look that could have shattered a bulkhead. Do you think I planned this? Another contraction hit. Hard. She dropped to one knee. Jack swept. Her up in his arms, heart pounding. Reeve, cover us! The old admiral saluted with his blaster. Go. I've got this. And tell that baby I expect her to outrank you both one day. Jack ran. Through the cabin. Down into the lower chamber, where Reeve had set up a medical pod just in case. He laid Jara down, panting, glowing, cursing. In 3 languages, she grabbed his hand, tight. Don't leave. Never, he said, brushing her hair back. You started this war in a bar, remember? She groaned. And you started it by commenting on my excellent respiratory system. Yes, I know. The pod lit up, preparing for assisted hybrid delivery. EarthTech and Veltari Biomed had never worked together before. Neither had Jack and Jara, until now. But somehow they always found the rhythm. 3 hours of pain, sweat, and what Jack would later describe as heroic hand-holding and emotional trauma. And then, a sound. High. Tiny. A cry. Jara's eyes fluttered open. Jack, still breathless, held the baby. 4 eyes. Soft silver skin. Tiny, perfect fingers. And when she looked up at him, one of her lower eyes blinked. Jack stared. She winked. At birth. That's gotta be some kind of record. Jara smiled weakly. Warrior's instinct. She's claiming dominance. Jack held their daughter to Jara's chest. The baby immediately settled, her skin pulsing with soft, lavender warmth. She's beautiful, Jara whispered. What do we call her? Jack grinned. I was thinking jetpack. No. Fine. How about Lyra? Jara nodded, eyes glassy. Lyra. Later, as the sun rose over the ridgeline, Reeve sat on the porch drinking coffee out of a bullet-riddled mug, while Jack and Jara lay together inside, Lyra curled up between them. Outside, the bounty was canceled. The council, faced with galactic outrage and surprising public support, voted to protect the child as a symbol of interspecies peace. Jack and Jara weren't fugitives anymore. They were family. She turned to him in the dim morning, light touching his chest. So, now what? Jack looked at their daughter, at the stars just starting to fade. Now, he said, pulling her close, we raise a kid who might change the universe. Jara blinked. She already did. And for once, Jack had nothing smart to say. Only this. They had run through stars, fought off hunters, broken laws, and rewritten biology itself. And somehow it all started because a human man couldn't stop staring at a beautiful alien officer and said the wrong thing. Perfectly. End.